Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on creating 3D models of flat roofing for model railroad structures using generators. This update contains information on creating hipped roofs. Just as a reminder, my generators are available for downloading at my website, http://dackm.github.io. Right below my introduction, there is a table of contents, and in the entry on Automating CAD is a link to download a zip file containing all the executable files. And the generators work in real millimeters, so are scale independent. Before we start on the generator, we need to make a few assumptions. We will assume that you have successfully downloaded the generator's zip file, extracted them, virus scanned them, and launched the flat roofing generator. We will also assume you have learned how to post-process the SCAD files through the Open SCAD program to create stereo lithography files. If either of these assumptions is not correct, please watch the tutorial on creating a basic building where these concepts are introduced. Here is a picture of the 4 flat shingled roofs we are going to discuss today, using board and batten, tab, semicircle, and diamond shingles. And here is the generator form that created them. You will note that the corrugated and flat roof options are grayed out, indicating that they are anticipated as future options, but are not available at the time of this writing. And the rafter and pillar option will be discussed in a subsequent tutorial. I show these simple roofs standing on edge because I find they print better on my Bamboo P1S printer that way. But for hipped roofs, I print them standing on a corner and use slicer-generated supports because doing so minimizes the amount of support material used and makes it easier to remove the supports after printing. Undoubtedly, your first choice will be to select a shingle style, so just click on a style you would like and give it a try. Regardless of your style choice, parameters for the panel width, the dimension from left to right, the panel length, the slanted dimension from edge to peak, and the substrate thickness, the thickness of the panel underlayment, also known as the panel thickness before the shingles are added, are provided for you to describe the size of a roof panel you desire. You will also see a roof pitch parameter, where you can select the angle of the roof line, which works well in conjunction with the bevel roof top edge. If this checkbox is checked, which I highly recommend, then a bevel will be placed on the top edge of the roof panel, which, when properly aligned in a CAD package or assembly fixture of your choice, results in a perfectly fitting set of roof panels. If unchecked, well, you are left to your own devices for fitting the panels. Now let's consider the section width, batten height, and batten percent parameters. We expect a board and batten roof to have elevated batten sections every so often, and the section width specifies the distance between the battens, or sections, of the roof. The size of the batten height is pretty self-explanatory, but the batten percentage is not. The batten percent represents the percentage of the section that is elevated. So if this number is lower on a scale of 0 to 100, then the battens will be relatively narrower and look elevated from the boards. And if relatively higher, then the battens will appear as if they are under the boards. Now when you get your parameters the way you want them, hit the Generate button, save the SCAD file, run the SCAD file you created through Open SCAD, and if you like what you see, hit the STL button to create the stereo lithography file. Remember that the generator creates only a single panel. You need to print a pair, then glue them together, and finally glue them to whatever structure you would like. But There is a tip on my website on how I avoid manually gluing the panels to each other by using Tinkercad to get a perfect fit. So check that out at your convenience. Now, let's get over to the tab shingles. And these look like about 80% of the shingles placed on a roof in the last 75 years. Basically, rectangles. The shingle width and height represent values of an individual shingle, not a set of triplets that you might buy from a home supply store. The shingle thickness is pretty self-explanatory too. Shingles are attached to the substrate at an angle to make them appear as if each higher row is overlapping the one below, and that shingle pitch controls the angle of the overlap. You probably don't want to modify this one much, if at all, but it is there for your convenience. You may want to stagger each row a bit from the one below, and the horizontal offset parameter will let you do that. If the offset is half the shingle width, then the panel will appear to repeat its location every other row, and so on. The vertical offset is not quite so dramatic, and it adjusts the distance between rows. Finally, we have the shingle gutter control. I think the roof panels look better if there is a very slight gap between each shingle in a row, and that is what the shingle gutter controls. If you know how to control a tab shingle, you know how to control a semicircle or diamond shingle panel. The controls are the same. It's just the shapes which are different. In March of 2025, I added a new parameter, the ridgeline width, to allow me to create hipped roofs with slanted panels on the ends. If you enter a value here, which is less than the panel width, then the panel you create will be butterflied with triangular spaces on the ends. And after you generate the main roof panel, you will be given the opportunity to create triangular end caps to complete the hipped roof. While you can glue the components together manually, I prefer to use Tinkercad to complete the assembly, and a tip and trick shows how this is done. Please be aware that if you change the panel width after changing the ridgeline width will be reset to match the panel width. The ridgeline width must always be set after the panel width. And there you have it. If you are really into roofing, you may be interested in checking out the generators for shake shingles and arch roofing. Enjoy!